The big thing was about letting go last week. And, you know, really getting out of kids' responsibilities. And this is not something that's good on paper. This is something that, you know, we do in our life, and it's not easy to let go of control, because it's a real leap of faith when you do that. And you can't make somebody care. That's, I think, one of the big messages about last week, is you cannot make someone care. And as a matter of fact, if you try to get people to take action, you know, to do something different, to do something better, before they're actually ready to do it, it doesn't work. And so for those of you who are counselors, there is something, and for those of you who aren't, this is going to sound really weird and like a big mouthful, but there's something called the Transtheoretical Model of Change. And I think everybody should know about this, especially parents. So I'm going to give you an example. If a client is sent to me because his employer has sent him, and, you know, I get a report and the employer says, so-and-so has a drinking problem, he needs counseling to deal with this, otherwise his job is in jeopardy. So say so-and-so comes in and he sits down in my office, and we introduce ourselves, and I say something like, so I understand you're here because of an issue with alcohol. Immediately with his response, I'm going to know where he's at in terms of this model of change. I can tell by the way he talks and the things that he's saying. So if he says to me, this is ridiculous, I don't have an issue with alcohol, my boss is completely blowing this out of proportion and overreacting. Where do you think he's at on that model of change? Not at all. He's pre-contemplative. Now, a lot of kids are pre-contemplative with their homework, with their messy bedrooms, with hygiene. They're pre-contemplative because they haven't experienced the cons to being there. So for this guy, there's probably more pros than cons to dealing with what could be a drinking issue. But that's information for me that tells me how I should respond, how I need to respond. And this is what we need to learn to do with our kids. I need to respond by using reflective listening, which means putting his words into my own language so that I understand where he's at. And so I might say something back like, wow, it just sounds like this may feel like a waste of time, and you really think that this is an exaggerated, letter about your behavior. And if he says, yeah, it's crazy, what's going on there, while I meet him where he's at, what's going to happen there is him and I are going to form a relationship. And it might take time for him to make any movement at all. But imagine if I didn't just use reflective listening and just meet him where he's at. So, we use that phrase quite often, meet your kids where they're at. Imagine if I said to him, well, I'm looking at this report and clearly there is a problem here. What do you think his response would be to that? Shut down. He would completely shut down. I would have closed a door. I have an agenda. My agenda is I want you to change. I want you to start doing your homework. I want you to start caring about the state of your room. And it creates this. And then what happens is I'm now taking over that person's issue. I am taking over his responsibility. And I just want you to think about how often we actually do this as parents, by nagging and over-controlling and getting in kids' business. Of course, we want them to improve. We know what they need to do. We all know what we need to do. Go to bed earlier, eat better, but unless we're feeling a lot of cons, we just like, it's not really a big deal, right? I mean, until you finally can't get those pants on anymore. It's like, okay, that's it, that's enough. I'm ready to make a change. So pre-contemplative is that first stage of change. It's actually a part of the process. Now, he might come back into the office. Maybe it's his third time. And I'm hearing something that we call change talk. And I really want you to get this. Change talk, there's actually an acronym for it. It's called that darn change talk, which is a desire to change, an ability to change, a reason to change, and a need to change. So think about that. If kids are desiring a change and they feel that they're able to do it, and there's a reason for them to create change, something really motivates them, and it satisfies a need for perhaps feeling significant or experiencing growth or success or whatever that might be. If they can get to that place, you will hear it in the conversation. So he might come in, and now I'm hearing, you know, I've been thinking about it, and I think I spend too much money on booze, and I have way too many hangovers, and I don't think it's really serious, but I'm kind of done with the hangovers and feeling crummy. Now I'm hearing change talk. I'm just still going to hold that up, though. It's not time for me to say, well, let's get to work. So here's what we need to do. I can't do that, because I'm going to take the responsibility over again. And this is where you as parents, if you're hearing that change talk, you go into mentor/coach/consultant. And you reflect, it sounds like you're kind of fed up with this. Yeah, I really want to get better marks. So it means a lot to you to get better marks. You just feel more comfortable with that. Yeah. Then you get to ask short, dumb, what questions, coaching questions, not convoluted, you know, things that you're leading questions to manipulate. Well, what would happen if you studied more? Would be one of those convoluted questions. Or what would happen if you went and talked to your teacher? That's not what I mean. Short, dumb, what questions, coaching questions are, what could this look like? What works for you? What else? What else? What matters here? That's coaching. And if you can do that with your kids, for especially kid issues, even family issues, what you're actually doing is saying, you have some good ideas, I want to hear them. You've got that muscle that can be exercised, that decision-making muscle that we talked about in Responsibility Equals Freedom. And you know what this does? Because decision-making and problem-solving, it increases the resiliency. It helps a child feel confident, and decision-making and problem-solving is the antidote to anxiety. And so what's happening today is many kids aren't able to make these decisions because people are making them for them, and then they become very, very anxious that they can't make a good decision. So that's contemplative. Then the next stage, there's 5. The next stage is planning to take action. And you know, when you're brainstorming with your child, that's when he might be planning to take action. With this client, he might be making a plan. I might ask him what it looks like and respectfully just guide him and coach him. And usually when we make a plan, it's like 30 days from now or after the birthday or after New Year's or whatever. So planning to take action is a part of it. And then sometimes people need to think about it for a while. So you don't say to your kid, hey, you said you were going to do this and you're not doing it. Let them sit with it. Stay out of it. And then there's taking action, whatever that might be. And then there's maintenance, which is just maintaining the action required. And then there's backsliding. So, you know, you get to the maintenance point, you've done really well, not drinking and feeling really good. And then there was a staff party. I thought I could have just one. Steps back. The steps back are a part of change because they've experienced feeling good and they've experienced success. And so they know what it feels like and they know what they want to get back to. So when our kids take a step back and they have a failure, don't see it as something that's gone wrong. See it as part of growth and part of the process. It's that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I just like people to know this because, you know, if we really want to mentor our kids and if we really want to help them develop that resiliency and self-efficacy, which is being able to depend on themselves, to do the right thing for themselves, this is how we do it. And I've said this before, when it comes to kid issues, you know, by the time they're a level 2, you should be fired as a general manager. And if you can coach without over-controlling and being intrusive, you will be hired back on as the consultant. They just won't pay you very much.